Flow, easily one of the most overlooked parameters in any reef tank. In this video, we're going to talk about flow, why it's important, and why you should pay attention to it. Hey, what's up, Reefers? This is Reefer Matt. In today's video, we're going to talk about flow. I hope to help you out if you have any issues and maybe they're flow related. Flow can help out with a lot of things, especially with color or growth, even polyp extension. So we'll take a little look at flow here, and I'll try to make it as simple as possible. We don't need to really dissect this to really understand it. So the first thing to keep in mind is coral have zooxanthellae in them. If you don't know what zooxanthellae are, they're basically like an algae, and they get their food through photosynthesis and in turn feed the coral. So in order to get that photosynthesis, there needs to be an oxygen and nitrogen exchange. So that goes on in the zooxanthellae, and flow makes that happen, because otherwise it's just going to get stagnant and all those gases and those nutrients are just going to sit there right at the coral and they're not going to move. So you want to have a nice healthy exchange. So that's a big part of why we want flow, is for that exchange for the zooxanthellae, because just like plants, they need to have things moving around them. You know, plants that we plant outside in the garden, we do need air moving around. We do need to have an exchange. So flow in a tank helps make that happen. So let's start off with these SBS coral here and talk a little bit about why they need a lot of flow. A lot of people know that SBS need flow, they just don't know why. That's because SBS have a lot more photosynthesis going on than other coral, because they have a lot more light shining on them. And if we were to just put them in dimmer light, they wouldn't be all nice and colorful and pretty, and they wouldn't grow so great. So they actually do grow faster than other types of coral, and that's why they need more flow, because they have more of that exchange going on with the zooxanthellae and the photosynthesis than other coral do. So we need to give them a lot more flow. And not all coral need a lot of flow. As you can see here, these LPS coral, they're doing just fine with moderate flow. These guys can actually eat other foods too, so they can supplement their diet with physical food rather than just the zooxanthellae that's feeding them. And coral like these zoas here can tolerate a wide range of flow. You just may have to acclimate them a little more slowly to your tank, and they should come around. All right, well, let's talk about another reason why we need flow, and that is for waste removal. So in this tank, I have a lot of detritus. You can actually see some of it moving around. There's some down here that I got to siphon out. So detritus will collect in certain spots where there's low flow. And where that collects, it'll just keep building up, and it'll eventually kill the coral where it builds up, and it'll start accumulating algae in that one spot. And it basically is like a big pile of fertilizer. So that's why you get little patches of hair algae in between your coral, because it killed that little part of the coral and it grew algae on it. Like here's a little example where there's some coral warfare going on, and if I had algae in this tank growing there, you would see it there, and that would be a prime example of why we need flow as well, so that don't build up on that spot. So typical signs that your lighting is not adequate in SBS corals, at least, and you also got to tie this into your lights too, by the way, but if your coral are brown, then more than likely you have too much flow and not enough light. So you'll have to kind of play around with those until the corals start to color up again, but don't make those changes really quick. Do them one at a time and do them slow. Give the coral a couple months to recover and see what they're going to do. I do notice, since I've increased the flow in this tank, I am seeing a lot more color in the tips of my coral, and they're also growing faster, like these acropora here. And hey, even if you have great flow and you're like, all right, I made it, I got it all set up, make sure you're keeping your equipment clean. What happens, especially with gyres like these, they get dirty and then the flow goes way down. So make sure you're keeping those clean. Just keep an eye on them. You'll have to clean them to whatever schedule of the stuff that builds up on them. Maybe every so many months or so, but make sure you're keeping them clean. And here's an example of one that's not clean. I got 3 in this tank that I have to clean. This thing's on 100% right now, and you can barely tell that it's putting out anything. So I really got to take care of this because I have SBS in this tank. And I have a lot of light up top. So what happens when these get dirty and that light is still staying the same, the flow goes down, then it starts to burn out the coral. And the coral might start bleaching, and they're not going to like that if your flow gets diminished like that. So make sure you're cleaning your equipment. And yes, I need to do that too. And don't mind this toadstool, I just fragged him, so he's a little upset. But this is a softy tank. So if you have soft coral, you still want some flow. You can do low flow, you can do medium flow. Soft coral are probably the most adaptable with the flow, but typically they don't want a lot of flow with the exception of a few. So soft coral, you can put pretty much anywhere and they'll adapt pretty quickly to your flow and light settings. Especially this guy here, look at that. All right, so I want to talk about the difference between the flow and the return, which is that guy right there. You know, it comes out of your sump or out of your the back of the tank if you have a all-in-one, and the flow that's going on in the tank itself. Because there is a difference. When you're new, you're thinking, oh, I just got to bump up that return and that'll be the majority of my flow. Actually, it's the opposite. In the high flow tank anyway, a lot of the flow is going to come from the gyres. These guys are what are making most of the flow in the tank. And this return is just for filtration. It's not really for flow. So keep that in mind, that you may have to get extra gyres, extra wave makers to bump up that flow. You could try a nice beefy return pump if you want, but you're still going to need different kinds of flow. These gyres that I have right here, they're making a sheet of water. This one goes in front of the tank. I have one that goes in the back, and I'll show you the back of my rocks real quick because my rock is not touching the back. I have a gap in the back and I have a gap in the front. So I have my gyres moving water around the back and around the front, and it kind of makes it go around and around that way. And then the one up top here moves not only the surface water there, but it's crashing into what the return's putting out, sort of here in the middle. I'll see if I can zoom into some of that. And I'll show you this too with some air in there, and you can actually see what it's doing. But that's my setup for this tank. So don't think just the return is going to do it all for you, or maybe the return and a couple wave makers. You got to be strategic. And I'll show you a cool way that you can actually visualize what your flow is in the tank. All right, let's see how handy I am at holding the camera and doing this with my hands. So to visualize it, just get a little pipe bed or turkey baster or something, and make sure you fill it with air. So don't squeeze it first like we normally do. Just have it with air and blow it right into it like this. And this will help you see your flow. So we're going to fill the tank up with some air bubbles. And we'll have a look. And sometimes, if that's not enough, break out the big guns, use a turkey baster. Check this out. So you can see all that flow. And that'll also show you if you have any dead spots in your tank. And really, it's just a matter of looking at it and just making a decision on what kind of coral you have and any dead zones that are in your tank. That just gives you a little visual representation of your flow, so you can make that call and move things around. And here you can see The flow in my tank's pretty good. I do have a lower area right here, and I do get detritus that settles on that Leptocerus there. And I just have to blow it out with the turkey baster. I may add another wave maker back there in the corner to help me out with that. We'll see about that later on, but that just gives you a visual representation of what your flow is, and then you can make any corrections that you need to. So that'll do it for our look at flow. Just keep in mind that flow is the circulation for the whole tank. It's very, very important. So make sure you're putting just as much thought and effort into the flow as you are your lights and all your other equipment and your livestock choices, because it basically is part of the life support of the tank. And you have to have flow if you're going to have coral, and fishies like it too. They like having flow. See my fish? They really like just swimming. It's like an infinity pool for them right there. They just keep swimming in the breeze, or they just swim around here. But fishies like flow too, so it also helps them out. But flow is very important. And if you have any questions, please feel free to leave them in the comment section. And if you're interested in getting these gyres that I have, these are the Higer gyres, I will leave a link right here and also a QR code so you can check them out. Just note that I am an affiliate, so I may make a commission off your purchase. I use those commissions for channel costs and giveaways for you guys, and I really appreciate it if you use them. So with that, I am Reefer Matt. Thank you for watching, and happy reefing.